Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Janice James Mitchell, and they call me Dr. Janice. And I'm here with
I'm Robin Powell. I am the speech language pathologist, and we are here today to present to you guys Purposeful Presence, a holiday guide to strengthening language and executive functioning at home.
So, today in this workshop, we're going to be looking at how you can strengthen language and executive functioning with toys, books, and other manipulatives that you can purchase for your children during Christmas as Christmas presents. So, when you look at executive functioning, you look at the brains as an air traffic control system. And remember when the shutdown occurred? This is not a great example, but it is a great example. That the air traffic controllers, when they weren't there, then the planes were not able to fly, or it wasn't efficient for them to fly. So your brain acts as that system. Um, Executive function also helps children manage their thoughts, their actions, and emotions. And during the preschool ages, um, that is something that is very important that we need to help our children to work through their actions and their emotions and their thoughts. And finally, when you look at executive functioning, it's important for learning in daily life functions. These things must be taught daily in order for them to be successful from here to now. So, what I've put together are some toys and games that can help build executive functioning that will help with impulse control and self regulation. And so, one of the first toys, it's a wooden shape learning puzzle, and it has the rich shapes and bright colors, and it easily will attract the children's attention, and it'll keep them busy for a long time. Believe it or not, some of the things that you can teach your children to help build executive functioning are free. For example, games such as red light, green light, or Simon Says. And the preschool teachers use this as a tool to work with their kids all the time to help them with that impulse control. If I say red light, you stop. Green light, you go. Simon Says, touch your head. Simon Says, touch your shoulder. Those are games that are free to you and that you probably already played with your child. And then you have Candyland, Shoots and Ladders. These games have been around a long time because Dr. Janice has been around a long time. But these two games help support patience, rule functioning, and managing frustration with children. So these two board games, and they're very inexpensive. So looking at the emotional regulation piece of this, yoga cards. Yoga cards or mindfulness cards for kids. And it's just teaching simple techniques for grounding and calming. You know, you see on TV all the time, or you even may do it as well. But you go to a yoga class, it helps you stretch, it helps you calm down. With the breathing exercises. So you can buy these cards and it'll show you the poses to use and as well as the breathing to work with them. And then the calm down sensory toys. This is a 50-piece fidget toy, box of toys that you can use. Litter bottles, fidgets, weighted stuffed animals, those types of things. And these are the sensory toys for kids, and it helps them to calm down the minds of children and for stressful induced situations. You can use these toys and they can help bring your stress level down, or they can minimize or calm down your mind, because sometimes children's minds as well as adults can go boom 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 boom, But these are some things that can help. And so now we can look at books that can help with executive functioning. There's 3 that I've put here, but there's, of course, more, as well as there are more toys. But one is the Color Monster, and it talks about emotions. 2, A Little Spot of Emotions. And it's a series of books, but it works with the emotional regulation of children. And then The Impatient Dinosaur, and it's great for self-control and patience waiting. The first one that I talked about was the Color Monster. It helps our preschoolers recognize and talk about their feelings. The second one is My First Emotions. My First Emotions is a board book, and it's great for little kids, as they say, little hands, aimed at helping kids understand their emotions in a simple way by looking at the pictures. And finally, The Impatient Dinosaur. It helps children with self-control and patience waiting. Now, I will turn it over to my counterpart, Miss Robin.
Right. All right. Okay, so we're going to jump into talking about some speech and language milestones. We're going to look from the age ranges of about 2 to 5 years old, just to kind of give you guys some little tidbits of information as to what we should be looking at skill-wise for our kids at all of these ages. So looking at a 2-year-old, we are wanting them to be receptively, so that's their understanding, that comprehension piece, a vast variety of words, and that's including, understanding their labels for things, action words, starting to understand like colors and size. They're going to be grasping so many different concepts. We want them to be following 2-step directions without us having to point and gesture and show them what we're wanting them to do. We are going to be able to have them point to pictures or objects in their environment when they're named, and being able to do things like identification of body parts and clothing items, some basic things like that. When we look at the expressive language for a 2-year-old, we are really hoping for at least a vocabulary of around 50 words. We like to see more than that, but as long as we have that 50, then we're doing good. So again, with that, once we hit around that 50-word marker, we're able to start having our children expand because they have enough vocabulary that they can start putting 2-word combinations together. And in our early 2s, that's going to look more imitation-wise, but as they kind of start developing, they're going to start using these by themselves. And then we're going to start hearing some of those early pronouns like me and mine, everybody's favorite stage there. And then looking into
Mine.
the mine, everything is mine. Looking into the 3-year-old development, just keep in mind that as we go through these, like everything is going to build. So once we see, those milestones achieved for 2-year-olds, then, it's just going to substantially grow. So again, our vocabulary, both receptively and expressively, is going to be growing rapidly at this age as well. We're going to be understanding 2 and 3-step directions. We're starting to understand more spatial concepts. So like putting things in, out, on, under, some of those basic preposition skills there. And then understanding simple WH questions. So different who, what, where, when, not when, but where. Who, what, and where questions are the ones that we're looking for at 3. And then we're starting to identify and understand different objects' function. So that's always fun to get into there, being able to answer those types of questions. As far as our sentence length, again, that is just going to continue to grow. We're looking for, a solid 3-word sentence to 4-word sentences. We're starting to continue to grow those pronouns. Now we're using I and you and continuing with me. We're starting to use the prepositions that we're understanding, as well as using plurals of things. So when you're out taking a walk and they see more than one dog, they're going to tell you dogs versus that singular form dog. And they're going to start asking you questions such as like, what is that? Just because that curiosity is going to continue to grow. All right. And then jumping into the 4-year-olds, this one, there is a lot that goes on with the comprehension. I feel like this is where they have a big boom there as far as like academic concepts, I guess as we could call them. So we're looking at their understanding of things like big and little. So we're getting into sizes, we're getting into same and different, colors, some of those common shapes. We're understanding when, why, and how questions. We're able to recall parts of a favorite story, and we're starting to understand some basic time concepts there. Looking at how they're able to express themselves, where again, that sentence length is just continuing to grow with them. So we're looking at around a 5-word sentence at 4 years old. And again, and within that sentence, we're looking for a variety of concepts. So again, we're looking at grammatical terms. Are we using past tense? Are we using pronouns correctly? Are we using plurals correctly? We're asking a lot of questions. This is our favorite why stage. We want to know why everything happens, and why do we have to do certain things. We're starting to tell short stories about things that have happened, and they're using a lot of language in their pretend play, which is so much fun to see. Okay, and then starting to look at our 5-year-olds, again, this is where we're hitting that kindergarten range. So again, even more academic concepts are coming in. We're looking at, being able to understand time concepts such as the past, future, present. We are able to sequence a story and we're able to retell it. We're answering questions about the story, showing that we've understood what we've heard. Again, our sentence length is just growing, and we're using all of these things that we're learning. So we're using opposite words. We're using the correct grammatical tenses of our words for, future tense and past tense verbs. So lots of great things that are going on here. I know I just threw a bunch of information at you guys, but just to kind of give us some good snippets. So what I wanted to dive into talking about now is, the biggest question I get: how can I help my child develop their speech and language skills? There are so many language strategies that can be easily used in daily routines to help promote language skills. The biggest thing I can say is that remember that kids learn best when they play and when they do things that are going to become familiar routines to them. So routines that are going to happen every single day, going to the grocery store, bath time, brushing our teeth, helping cook breakfast, lunch, and dinner, different routines like that, whatever is built into your family routine. So just to name a couple, and then we'll dive into each of them, we are going to be looking at the language strategies such as modeling, expanding, extending. We're going to look at recasting, self-talk, parallel talk, things such as wait time, giving choices, and then a fun one that's always called sabotage. So for modeling, just to kind of give a little information on that, basically what you're going to do with that is you are just providing a clear language example for the child to imitate that. So for example, if your child says, doggy run, you're going to be like, yes, the doggy is running. You're going to model that, longer sentence, more vocabulary, but keeping their content. For expanding, what you're going to do is exactly what it says. You're just adding on 1 or 2 words to what your child has already said to model a longer sentence. So I feel like this is a really fun one for our friends who get stuck in like that single word or 2-word sentence kind of area. This is a fun, low pressure way of just acknowledging and validating what they've said and that you understand, but then modeling that, because if you're modeling more, then they're going to go, oh, next time I can say additional words and then I can say more content. So for example, if you're playing cars and your child says car go, then you can say the car is going fast. So we've just branched from cargo to a nice long sentence that we would be looking for them to say. Looking into the next language strategy, that's going to be extending. And all you're doing there is you're just adding new information onto what your child has already said. So if your child says ball, then you can say, yes, the red ball bounced high. So you're giving colors, you're giving an action, spatial concepts, adding as much in there as you can. All right, and then let's look at recasting. That is basically just a very fancy way of saying that you are going to repeat what your child has said back to them, but using correct grammar. So if your child is saying something like him jump, then you can be like, he is jumping, you're right. And you're just kind of like subtly providing those models, but you're rephrasing what they've said with the correct grammatical terms. This one is fun for my littles. And again, these work at all ages, looking at self-talk, describing what you're doing as it's happening. So you're not anticipating the child to imitate you, to talk back at any point. You're just simply modeling what you're doing. So one of my favorite times to do this with my kids when they were little was when they wanted to help with cooking dinner or cooking lunch, or making a snack, whatever. And, so I wouldn't ask them what they're doing. I'm just talking about what I was doing. So, I'm cutting the apples and now I'm going to put them in the bowl, or now we have to wash them. So truly just talking about what you're doing. And the next one is parallel talk. So this is where you are just talking about what your child is doing in that moment. So if you're playing blocks with your child, again, you're talking about what they're doing, not what you're doing. So that's the difference between self-talk and parallel talk there. So for example, if they're building with blocks, you can say, wow, look at that tall tower that you're making with the blocks. You're stacking the blue block on the red block, or you put 4 blocks together. You're just kind of narrating what they're doing in that moment. All right. Choices are always a very, very, very good idea to use with all of our kids, because it's just a good way to encourage communication. Generally, I stick with giving just 2 choices at a time, so that way it doesn't become overwhelming. So, as simple as, do you want the blue cup or do you want the red cup? Do you want milk or do you want juice? And a lot of the times when you just give those choices, it's providing them with that vocabulary that they need, and they, may tell you milk or juice. And then you can expand from there as to how you model more language. Wait time is a hard one.
Executive function.
Right, that patience piece. It's a good one to try to do, but I am guilty on this one sometimes. You get in that go mode as a mom, and so you just want to get everybody going. But making sure you give a purposeful pause to give your child time to process and respond. So asking them, what do you want? If they're coming up to you saying eat, and what is it that you want? Giving at least a 5 to 10 second pause to see if they'll tell you, crackers, apple, banana, or show you what they want. Even pointing at that is great, because they're still communicating what it is that they want. But yes, that one can be tricky, because especially when you're trying to grab a snack and run out of the door, you want them to respond fast, but trying to be mindful about how fast, we don't want to put that demand, that pressure on them. All right, so one of the last ones that we're going to look at is called sabotage. So what we're doing there is that you are just setting up opportunities to encourage communication for your child. So just fun, playful challenges for them. So for example, if they are wanting to have a snack, or they've requested a snack, and you can put their goldfish in a container and seal the lid on top and hand it to them. And they might look at you and hand it back because maybe they can't open that lid yet. It's a little bit tricky. So they're going to hand it back to you looking for help, and you can kind of take it, oh man, it's really stuck. What should we do? We need to, and then give them a little wait time to see if you can get open or help or more, but just different ways like that to encourage communication. All right. And then so the last thing that I wanted to talk about was to just kind of provide some examples between some toys and apps that are helpful to kind of tie in all of these language strategies and things that we've been talking about. So looking specifically at apps, some of the ones that I have found really beneficial that I will use in my therapy sessions. The first one is called My Play Home. And I think they have a version now that's called My Play Home Plus. And that it goes from just being at like we'll say like a dollhouse typed theme to where now it's a community. And so you have the grocery store and you have a hospital and you have school and all kinds of different environments, which is really fun. And you can just kind of drag and you drop the kids and the parents and animals into the different spots on the screen. And you can use all of those great strategies. You can use self-talk to talk about like, oh, I'm going to have the boy eat breakfast, or he's got to go to bed, time to put on your pajamas. You're talking about what you're doing, you're talking about what they're doing as they're playing the game. You can do things such as following directions, you can work on spatial concepts. Sky's the limit. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it myself. And then looking at things like ABC Mouse, that one for our preschooler kids is definitely a good beneficial app, and it goes through a bunch of different concepts, things like that they can work on. I think it's called the Sago Mini World. That is another fun one because there's a bunch of different kind of atmospheres within there that you can utilize, and different concepts again that you can work on, different language, but it's just kind of a little different version of the My Play Home. And then for our kindergarten friends, those 5-year-olds, Starfall is a really fun app too for our kids because you can work on pre-literacy skills, you can work on all kinds of stuff, but just a fun one for their age too. And then moving forward, looking at different toys, I feel like you can never go wrong with a Melissa and Doug toy. Those are so much fun, and they encourage pretend play. Some of the examples that I'm showing you up there is like the little cleaning box and like the ice cream scoops. They have puzzles. They even have little dolls and doll houses. They're just great. They're a good quality toy and just very open-ended, which I like because you can do so much with them. Things for our builders, the Magnetiles are fantastic because you can work on colors, you can work on shape, size, you can work on what you're building. There's, directions to build specific things within the box. So a lot of fun there. Learning resource toys is another one of my super favorite ones. They have these cute little, I call them my surprise boxes, and they have little like figurines that come in with them. And so you can do all kinds of stuff with those. And I even at times will take those toys out and put different things in there just to kind of shake things up a little bit. But again, those are super fun toys to play with as well. Then we also have things like doll houses or the Little People toys. That's my other love. Can't go wrong with Little People and all the different setups that you can have there. Squigs are a fun kind of sensory toy as well as kind of building because you can pop them all together and stack them. You can stick them on the windows, doors. Those travel well, which is a lot of fun for if you need to occupy in the car. But lots of different toys like that. So again, books, puzzles, Play-Doh, kinetic sand, all of those, lots of great opportunities to encourage and build language skills. All right. Well, I think that's all we had for you guys today. We appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.
And have a Merry Christmas and happy shopping.
Yes.